Hello, it's Jimmy, and this is a great way to vicariously enjoy the summer that coronavirus has robbed us of. In fact, that's better. So, Melt My Heart is Bethany Rutter's second YA book. The first one was No Big Deal, and I've talked about that. I really enjoyed No Big Deal. But if anything, I enjoyed Melt My Heart even more. It's similar in the writing tone, and it's similar in that they're both YA contemporary novels about teenage girls navigating family, friendship, and romantic relationships. They're both kind of coming of age novels, probably this one more than No Big Deal to some extent. And they both feature a fat main character who is struggling a bit with their place in the world as a fat girl. Bethany Rutter, the author, is a fat fashion blogger, and I think she works as a social media person for a fat fashion brand. So she knows what she's talking about, speaking from experience. The basic setup of this book is you've got the main character, Lily Rose, living at home with her mother and her twin sister. She's working on the beach at a summer job in a ice cream stand, and this is her last summer at home because she's just finished school and she's going to go off to university. Her sister's going off to university, and she's struggling to cope with the fact that she's going to be leaving her seaside town and having to make all new friends and everything like that. Meanwhile, you could say there's some unfinished business with the relationships that she has at home, both with her friends, family, and love interests. She decides to try and broaden her horizons a bit by doing something new every day and bring herself out of her shell a little bit and maybe make herself more comfortable with the idea that she'll be leaving the familiar behind and going into a whole new situation for her. So along the way, she gets up to some nice summer activities. As I said, you can vicariously imagine yourself working in that ice cream booth on the beach rather than indoors trying to avoid a pandemic. And she figures herself out a bit more over the way, and she figures out her relationships and all of that. So I really enjoyed this book. I like the core kind of coming of age, figuring yourself out stuff. I feel like a lot of the things in there to do with that would be really helpful for a teenager to read or someone at that transition phase of life. And it did remind me of being a kid. Again, I think I said this about No Big Deal as well, that they remind me a bit of reading Sue Townsend's Adrian Mole books, which are kind of the most similar, although they're very different in tone and content in a way. It's the most similar thing that I read when I was growing up in terms of books about teenagers figuring out the world and all of the complicated, sometimes good, sometimes bad things about friendships and relationships and all of that. So I can just imagine myself as a teenager devouring it, which I pretty much did as someone who's not a teenager anymore as well. It's got other themes that feel really relevant. It's got themes of race and racism and sexuality and homophobia and figuring yourself out and figuring your community out. So a lot of those themes are timeless but also feel very timely to the moment we're in. And I think it's great that they're included in this book. So it's a good, enjoyable story. It's really easy to read and well written, especially if you like No Big Deal, you will love this. And it's got important themes, which I think it discusses well. So overall, a really good book. And I'm glad it gave me a little bit of that summer feeling, even during the Corona summer. This isn't a sequel to No Big Deal. It's a standalone book, as was No Big Deal. And I do hope Bethany writes more of these YA novels. I would quite like to see her take on a series, just because she does create these brilliant, real feeling casts of characters. And then at the end of the book, I kind of want to know what's happening next to this cast of characters. And I would love to be able to follow on and keep up with them a bit. So it would be great to see her start a series, but either way, whatever she writes next, I'll be reading it. So leave a comment if there's a book that you've read this summer that has given you that kind of vicarious summer experience, or if there's one that you're hoping to read that you think might give you that feeling. Thanks for watching.